Stone Cold Prose, Building Better Words.
Vladimir Lenin once famously remarked, "I grant you have the right to say what you wish, as long as you grant I have the right to shoot you for saying it." That was in 1917, and as far as his spiritual great-grandchildren are concerned, nothing has changed. The murder of Charlie Kirk is proof of this, as if we needed more proof. Charlie Kirk is simply one more body on the pile of bodies and bones which nihilists, Marxists, and neo-Marxists have been building for over a century. Hi guys, welcome back to Stone Cold Prose, where we ordinarily build better words, better thoughts, and better men. I'm Miles Watson, the novelist, and normally I give a little self-promotional spiel at this point, but today, this dark September 11th, we're going to dispense with that and stick strictly to business. So let's get into this. In one of my first videos on this channel, Was Reagan Wrong About Communism?, I talked about how wokeism's roots ran through neo-Marxism to Marxism to nihilism, i.e. all the way back to the 1700s and 1800s. How wokeism was an extension of this suffocating pseudo-religion concocted by Marx and Engels and first put into practice by Lenin and Stalin with genocidal results. And how some of its trappings had changed and some of its buzzwords had been modified over the years, but how at its core it was the same old bag of horrors with a different label that it had always been. The central feature of this counterfeit religion was its need to establish a single opinion to the exclusion of all others. Since so long as a single nation or even an individual offered an alternative opinion, the existence of the Marxian religion was threatened. And what was that opinion? It's the opinion that, and I quote, "there is a conflict between social equality and the liberty of some people, but that should not stand in the way of social equality." In other words, for Marxists, despite all their talk about breaking chains, liberty is not their aim. It is the imposition of their ideas on society whether society wants them or not. And it therefore must necessarily conflict with the liberty of some people. Which, as I have said before, is fine, provided you're the one getting social equality and not one of the some people. In the Declaration of Independence, our founding fathers spoke of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as unalienable or natural rights, meaning that they were rights you were born with, rights God or the universe granted you by virtue of your humanity, which could not be arbitrarily taken away either by governments or individual men. The left does not believe in unalienable rights. It believes rights are privileges extended to you by others, privileges which can be taken away for the greater good. As I said above, the conflict as they see it is between social equality and the liberty of some people, i.e. people they feel have too much or with whom they simply disagree. One of the outstanding features of neo-Marxism, i.e. wokeism, is that it has entirely abandoned the idea of dialectics. The entire religion of communism was founded on dialectical materialism, which comes from dialectics, a method of philosophical discourse that explores opposing viewpoints to arrive at a deeper truth or understanding, often involving the integration of contradictions. In other words, say what you want about communism, and I have, but it had an intellectual basis, and its adherents were extremely well trained how to argue their position. Neo-Marxism, wokeism, doesn't even make a pretense of arguing its position. It simply reserves unto itself all moral high ground and nobility, declares itself on the right side of history, and then assumes a mandate to bring about the changes it wants, social equality, by any means necessary. It does not argue. It does not debate. It shouts its opponents down. It threatens them. It cancels them. And as I have pointed out in multiple other videos, what cancellation means to the left is extremely flexible. A former communist commando and spy who defected to the West so he could be free, Viktor Suvorov, said that when it comes to other nations, communism attacks or it bides its time. It recognizes no other relationship. When leftists are weak, they limit themselves to yelling and screaming. When they are strong, well, just ask the folks under who Lenin or Stalin or Mao or Pol Pot or a host of other communist leaders what cancellation meant to them. Oh wait, you can't, because they're dead. The circumstances surrounding Charlie Kirk's murder are still largely unknown. The literal smoke has barely cleared. It may be, however, unlikely that his murder was unrelated to his politics, or that he was the victim of some horribly cold-blooded false flag murder committed by an agent provocateur in the hopes of galvanizing the right to more aggressive action. But the orgy of celebration that has broken out on the left and far left online in the wake of his murder, the flood of schadenfreude, the capering, gleeful dance these people are doing on his grave, and perhaps even worse, the very carefully worded, passive-aggressive, qualified condolences that others are choosing to give, implying that he deserved his death while pretending to decry it, made me realize that it doesn't fucking matter. It is the final proof, as if we needed any, that the modern left has not only lost its mind, it's lost its moral compass, the thing which in the old days, which aren't that far gone, it held nearest and dearest to its bosom. The old left, before it started drinking from the well of Marxism, actually believed in democracy. Whatever else it believed in democracy. And democracy is nothing and means nothing if it does not mean the liberty to speak our minds, no matter how unpopular our opinions may be. To get up on our soapboxes and say what we like, no matter how offensive it is to others. The old saying, I will defend to the death your right to disagree with me, used to be the heartfelt rallying cry of the left, its mantra, its Sardaukar chant. Now, unfortunately, it's been replaced by Lenin's screed. I grant you have the right to say what you wish, as long as you grant I have the right to shoot you for it. Charlie Kirk was intolerable to the left, because he knew how to argue, how to debate, how to think critically, how to use logic rather than emotion when trying to make a point. He was what the ancient Greeks called a rhetor, an orator. Whether you agreed with anything he said or not, it's inarguable that he knew how to go hard in the paint dealing with overheated, abusive, often hysterical college students who would line up to shout incoherent invective at him by the hour. He was polite and kept his cool, even in the face of truly vile insults. And this is why the wokeists hated him. Because he was equipped with a skill that they no longer possess, the ability to make an intelligent argument. The old doctrinaire Soviet communists were extremely skilled in debate and rhetorical trickery. The modern wokeist has no skill in debate at all and doesn't know any rhetorical tricks. They weren't taught how to argue or even to think. Only that they were right, and no one had a right to think differently from them, and most especially not to voice a different opinion, especially in a public forum. If a wokist cannot shout down an opponent, they become hysterical or even violent. We've seen this time and time and time again. We already know there is a definite connection between low verbal and emotional IQ and people who adhere to wokist ideology. And if you doubt this, try to debate one calmly, rationally, and see how quickly they resort to shaming tactics, insults, and even threats, or simply storm out of the conversation in a rage or in tears. This tantrum throwing is the result of frustration, and not the frustration that they're verbally helpless against a critical thinker. Not only that, it's a deeper frustration that they cannot shut him up. That, goddammit, they still live in a society where people are free to say what they think, even if it contradicts the wokist belief. The people celebrating Charlie Kirk's death didn't hate him half so much for his perceived beliefs as for the fact he had the balls to stand up on the big stage and voice those beliefs even to a hostile audience, something they would never dare do. They couldn't beat him in a debate, so they killed him. That at least appears to be what happened yesterday. But either way, the message that comes with his death, the message I'm seeing on Blue Sky and Twitter and all the other open sewers of the internet, boils down to this. Speak against our opinion, the only opinion you're allowed to have, and we will cancel you. One way or another. That's all.